is Brat Restaurant. My name is Thomas Parry. I'm the head chef and owner of Brat Restaurant here, and we've been here now for 3.5 years. And we are a predominantly wood-fired restaurant, wood-fired grill restaurant, sourcing British ingredients but cooking in a kind of Basque-inspired style. For us, the focus of it is, farm to table, and with minimal intervention in the supply chain, and getting good ingredients, grilling them and serving them is essentially how we work. I worked in various restaurants, but then all these restaurants I worked in, I would be drawn towards the fire element of each restaurant. For me, a lot of cooking was being driven by a lot of processes and stuff, which is great, but I just wanted to bring it back to cooking over well-sourced charcoal and wood, and really focusing on that supply chain. Inspired by countries such as the Basque countries of Argentina and also Japan as well, their use of fire cooking. For me, it's the most pure way of cooking. I actually have quite a link to it from my kind of cultural background in Wales. So living in rural Wales in Anglesey, the top part of Wales, lots of mountains next to the sea as well. Lots of cooking over fire actually, using lots of shellfish from the sea, cooking it quite simply over fire and eating it. We travelled extensively around the Basque country while researching building up this restaurant, and we kind of had a few dishes that we took direct inspiration from, such as the grilled turbot, which is a very classic Basque way of cooking a fish. And we do our own version of it, but it's, there's no question that it was directly inspired by their kind of beautiful charcoal, low ember, low heat style of grilling. The oyster dish we're doing today is a dish that we've had on the menu since we opened in some form. So we changed the garnish with the seasons, but for me it was again using the wood-fired oven to slowly kind of roast oysters, and it was very interesting for me. So it's actually a dish is inspired by a dish I had in Japan, which was sake steamed clams, and it was cooking the clams on top of seaweed, and this kind of steamed the clam open, and then they finished it with some sake. We use British seaweed. So we sit the oysters on the seaweed, we put a lid on it, and we cook it in the wood-fired oven. What happens is the natural seawater in the seaweed steams the oyster. It's really clean and tastes of the sea. We remove it and then we season it with whatever's in season. So today we have grilled cucumber, some fermented gooseberries which are in season, and some Welsh lava bread style seaweed. The oysters that we use are from Wales as well. They're from North Wales, where I come from, and they're from a part of Wales where it's an estuary meets the sea. Normally, if you have an oyster from the estuary, they're more creamy, and from deep sea, cold sea, they're a bit more minerality because it's colder sea. So it's very cool, like a combination for me. It's very nice because it has a bit of both going on. But I actually like the estuary creaminess to this oyster with a little bit of minerality. So. So that kind of creaminess works really well with the gooseberry, the sharpness. The seaweed kind of works naturally, the umami, and then you have the cucumber, which is very sweet and light. It's also finished with a bit of horseradish, just to give kind of background heat, but that's not so much of a flavour profile, it's more of a heat. Again, that's also inspired by trips to Japan, where they were using wasabi on shellfish, so we use horseradish in the same way. So, inspired by Japanese techniques and the Basque techniques, and obviously Welsh heritage and British heritage kind of comes together. The sake here has like a little bit of sweetness, but also has some creaminess and a little bit of sourness, which actually replicates the flavour profile of oyster quite well. We've chosen this sake after tasting 12 bottles or so. I really like this style here, this yakushin from the Gifu prefecture. It's made in the kind of Junmai Ginjo style, and it's very fresh flavour. I think that comes from the unpasteurised method, the Nama style of making. So I think it's exciting, and also for the team here at Brat's restaurant, it's really interesting for them to taste something different, because they usually pair with wine or British spirits. So we make a cheesecake here, which is a burnt Basque cheesecake, which actually, again, is a Basque recipe, but one that I've noticed that in Japan is served a lot. In the profile of that pudding is kind of bitter and sweet and creaminess, and sake pairs perfectly with this. You know, you can use your sweet wines from France and Italy, which are delicious, but the more I taste of these sakes, the more they complement these things. So I think we tried a strawberry flour yeast sake earlier, which is absolutely delicious, and the team will be tasting that now. But it's fascinating for me. And I also think the guests that come here are really excited by tasting some of the sakes. So I'm kind of fairly new to sake pairing. You know, over the last, it's probably more 5 years compared to maybe 20 years I've been trying the wine. And what I do find interesting is when it comes to grilled vegetables and grilled shellfish and seafood, it's distinctly more engaged with what I'm serving. When I'm trying to build a dish such as grilled langoustines, grilled clams, or grilled oysters like we do now, I'm always in my mind trying to think of how would sake, the flavour profile of sake with the shellfish, with the grilled shellfish. So it's actually opened my mind to the way that drinks can be paired with grilled food. I think it's delicate, but also it cuts through this, brings out sweetness of grilled shellfish a lot. It also brings out a lot of the sweetness in grilled vegetables, something that, say, maybe other pairings don't do as much. I've generally only drunk sake in Japanese restaurants, so it's really exciting for me to be able to serve purely British ingredients, cooked over fire in quite a simple way, finishing, with the kind of more, I would say, British influenced, Welsh influenced flavour profile. So pairing it with sake is very, very exciting, because it kind of lifts it and takes it somewhere else, which is cool. Yeah. Over the summer period, people grill at home, and they, normally drink beers, good beers these days, and also drink wine. But, with companies and people such as Japan Page, they make it really accessible for wherever you live in the UK, for instance, to get that sent to your door, which is really exciting. I would encourage everyone to try dishes, mainly shellfish, seafood, oysters, predominantly like we've done today, and try it with these amazing sakes.